Hello everyone. Today we're looking at one of these. Everybody keeps asking me, why don't you do some Nokia phones? So I dug through my storage unit and I came up with a couple of Nokia phones. I thought I'd do this one first because this was the very first Nokia. It was the second Nokia phone that with the Orange cellular provider in the UK offered to its customers. I do have the first one, and I do have a boxed one. In fact, I got more than one that's boxed. I got a couple that's boxed, and I'll do a video about that one probably in the next week or two, because I dug that out as well. But today we're looking at this. This is what's known as the Nokia Orange 5.1. The original Nokias that they had out on Orange were these bad boys. Just quickly take this out, the plastic. If you're an old school guy like me, you'll probably recognize this. This is a brand new one, obviously, never ever been used or activated. These are GSM 1800. SIM card goes in there. And this was the original 2140 Nokia that the Orange provider in the UK provided. These were expensive at the time. I bought one of these. This was actually one of I think this was like the second GSM phone I bought. The first one was probably like a Nokia 2110, and this is a derivative of that phone. Just the 2110 is GSM 900, and these are GSM 1800. I will do a video about this one at a later stage though. Today we're looking at this. This is a box 5.1. This is what the box looks like. Much smaller than obviously the box for some of the other phones. So let's take a look inside. This is what you got when you bought one of these. You got a whole bunch of pamphlets. Orange are real good back in the day at giving you loads of brochures and stuff. They must have spent a hell of a lot of money on paperwork. So you got a insurance and warranty pamphlet. Of course, back in those days, the Orange tariff basically included free itemized billing, free voicemail, free insurance, and their insurance was good, man. Their insurance was real good. When they first launched, they had a 4-hour insurance. Basically, what that meant was you could phone them up and complain and say you wanted a new phone, and they would get you a new phone. They would send a courier out, and they would get you a new phone within 4 hours of you calling up and saying you had a problem with your phone. That's how good they were back in the day. Of course, nowadays they let themselves slip, and he is even worse than ever. You know, their customer service ain't that great. They're expensive comparison to some of the other networks. They're expensive. So, but anyway, so you got you're using your Orange phone booklet. This is basically a manual. All nice and pretty and colorful. You got a pop-out reminder card there as well. Basically real neat, and these phones were actually real cool to use. You got a price guide, and this told you how much money these guys were going to steal from you when placing calls, and these guys weren't too bad actually compared to what the competition was offering at the time. These guys weren't too bad. I remember signing up to one of these talk tariffs, and per minute I think it was like 25 pence. Yeah, 20 pence. So actually it ain't too bad. If you think some of the original Vodafone tariffs and Cellnet tariffs that they had back in those days, they were like 50, 55, 60 pence a minute. 60 pennies. That's like almost $1. That's like $1 a minute basically. Or like 95 cents a minute, which is extortionate by any standard. Back then you didn't really have any inclusive airtime. I know these guys Orange were like the first ones to have inclusive airtime, together with the Mercury 1-to-1 network, which was the competition to these guys. But I mean, you got Talk 15. You paid £15 a month, and you only got 15 minutes. I don't want to sound funny, but that's one phone call for me, and you had that every month. So they weren't very generous with their airtime, but back in those days, airtime was expensive. There was no unlimited tariffs or anything like that. What these guys did offer was unlimited text messaging. I know everybody's got that nowadays, but there was a time when you would pay 10 or 12 cent per text message. So these days it's just a given. But anyway, so you got a nice little price guide about how much money you're going to get robbed, and then you got a nice little welcome booklet, nice and colorful, with the orange scheme, and it's got the card missing. So yeah, real neat. And they claimed at the time over 60% of the country's population. I do actually have coverage maps, cellular service maps of the UK from when they launched, because I got my first Orange phone in 1990. I think it was late 94, early 95. And I think they launched April 94, if I remember correctly. So they basically just covered like London and Birmingham and a few other little tiny places, but most of the country they had no service. And I will try and I'll try and show you guys the cellular maps. It's really quite incredible. But anyway, so I ramble. Let's take a look at the phone. So this is actually what you got when you bought one of these back in the day. Orange 5.1 or Nokia 5.1. The original slim battery. Actually, this ain't an original one. I've just realized. And you got the all-important charger. Now, the good thing about these chargers is these were the same chargers as the Nokia ones, the Nokia 9000. Don't know if you guys know, but Nokia 9000s are like the communicators. And this is a Nokia 9000 charger. It's got the little grill there. This is one of these chargers. They are actually the same. They're both ACH 4Xs, and the socket's the same. These are the thicker ones, not the more modern, slimmer ones. So these chargers are quite rare nowadays. Anyway, let's power one of these up. Has this got SIM in it? Yes, it does. Let's see what this guy does. See if we actually got any juice in here. No juice. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to plug this guy in. Hopefully this guy will power up. If I remember correctly, the SIM card in there is still good, so we'll have to power up. Let me just plug this guy in. Okay, so hopefully that should start charging. There we go. So we can now fire this guy up, and we should get some life out of this guy. Some of y'all might not notice, but most of the old school Nokias had this memory menu and memory button. It's saying Mercury 1-to-1 because obviously Mercury 1-to-1 joined forces with Orange, and they merged, and now it's EE. But basically the 1-to-1 is now basically Orange, and Orange is EE basically. So this is EE, but it's still displaying 1-to-1. It's got the triangle, which means that it's roaming, because back in those days when they had this phone, obviously the 1-to-1 was not the same network, so the SIM cards and the phone sees it as roaming on another network. But you got all the usual refinements back in the day, and these were good phones back in the day. You got messages, call, answer phone, read messages, write messages. You could write messages, and the beauty about this is you could change the message sent to number. On modern phones, you can't anymore, and because back in those days you could only message people that were on your cellular provider. So say you were with Orange, you wanted to send a text message to someone on Vodafone, you couldn't do that. And the way to get around it back then was use a message center from another provider's network abroad. So you could put like I don't know, Slovenian or Czech or German message sender number, and your message would go from the UK, from this phone, to the German one, and then from the German one you could then message someone on another network, and it would go through that way. Not a lot of people noticed, but I made full use of that fact, and they caught up with me, and I got a 91-page itemized phone bill when they did catch up with me for 1 month. That was because I sent so many text messages. But back in the day, it was good to go. But anyway, so let me just explain these phones. Battery full? No, I don't think so. So basically you got the menu button and the memory button up and down, ABC and a clear, obviously send and dial in the keypad. Most of y'all probably ain't seen phones that have push buttons like this with a real basic menu, but it did work. It worked real well. Let me zoom a little. So you got recent calls. This will be your call list, missed calls, dial calls, received calls, and obviously, and you could go back. So you got messages. Don't think there's any messages in here. So call answer phone, that would be 1 2 3. Read messages, no messages. Write messages, nothing there. Message settings, message sender number, sent as text message, provide reply path, no. Validity, you could, again, this is something I don't think many phones let you change nowadays, because the cellular network providers kind of control that, especially the message sender number. That's really what you wanted to do, and they're still using this as a valid center number. But anyway, so what else we got? Go back one. Messages, so call divert, kind of self-explanatory. These phones supported it. Phone settings, lights, so backlight, ringing volume, that's always a good one. And you got a choice of, I think, like 5 ringtones or 7 ringtones. Was it 8? So that'll be number 1. Number 3. God, I got a headache now after that. And you guessed it, the world famous Nokia ringtone. And their very first phones, even the Nokia 2110 had this particular ringtone. That one, that was a classic Nokia ringtone. That was kind of what was synonymous with these Nokia phones, actually. And even to this day, you buy a Nokia phone, it'll have that ringtone. It'll have obviously a polyphonic ringtone, not something monophonic like this. But these were good to go. You know, these were good. So you could change the beeps on the keypad as well. Warning tones, that would be your battery warning tones. Automatic redial, one-touch dialing, automatic answer, restore factory settings, and you could actually shorten the menu as well, so you could have short or complete. I'm gonna leave that with complete, and that was it. Back to the drawing board lights. So what else we got? Let's have a look. Ringing options, ring, so you could have ring, beep, or silent service. These phones didn't support vibrate. They did do extended batteries that actually had the vibrate motor in the battery, and then you could get vibrate on these phones, but the phones themselves didn't actually even have a motor to vibrate. That's how prehistoric these phones are. Security options, well, so you got pin code requests, kind of self-explanatory, whether you need the pin code or not. Security level, now I don't have the security code for this. Security level lets you set the kind of security you want on it, the level of security, so whether you can access the phone memory or not, and things like that. I don't have the security code for this, I don't think, unless it's somewhere on a bit of paper. Call barring, kind of self-explanatory. If you bar certain types of calls, international, national, that sort of stuff. Restricted dialing list, that's to set up a list that only those numbers you could dial, and restricted dialing off. Change access codes, that'll be your security codes, and back to square one, pin code request. What else we got? Call time and costs. Here we go. Call time, so you got last call 22 seconds, all calls 50 minutes, clear timers. I don't have the security code for that. So actually it looks like this phone is only possibly being used for 50 minutes in all, which is why it's actually in real good condition. Got the original SIM card in there and everything. So call time, what else we got? So network selection, always a good one. what happens if we search? Probably will only pick up 1-to-1, because obviously they got rid of cell towers with the Orange name, and they change everything to E now, but it still displays 1-to-1 because that's what's programmed up on the SIM. Oh, actually, that's interesting. Believe it or not, this phone is so old that actually it don't even display the name of the competitors. UK10 is Cellnet. That is nowadays O2 in the UK. And UK15 is Vodafone. So it looks like actually both UK10, both O2 and Vodafone operate GSM 1800 cell towers in the area. Of course, we're in London, so I kind of expect that, because back in the day when BT Cellnet or O2 as they're now known, they used to be called Cellnet, then they went BT Cellnet, and then they went to O2. When Cellnet and Vodafone back in the day only had GSM 900, there was a finite amount of capacity on their network. So what happened was they ran out of capacity. So in the congested areas like London, where there's a lot of cell phone usage, a high concentration in a small area, they actually got some frequencies for GSM 1800. And this phone is GSM 1800 because that's what 1-to-1 in Orange was, which is obviously now E. And so Cellnet or O2 and Vodafone have GSM bandwidth or capacity in the area, and this phone is picking up that. But it's only got 3 service providers. It ain't got Orange, so they'll obviously rationalize the network around here, and they just got 1-to-1. If you select that, it will say no access, or at least I expect it will. Shouldn't allow access. Might take a while though. So there we go, no access. And the same would happen if you tried UK15, which is 230-15. The UK country code for cellular networks is 230, I think, and then obviously the UK10 would be 230-10. UK15, which is Vodafone, 230-15, and I think Orange was 230-30 or 33, and 1-to-1 was 230-30. I think 1-to-1 was -30, and -33 I think was Orange. But nowadays most cell phones, display the name. This is just actually the network code for it. You probably ain't going to get any cell phones this old that'll actually just show you this kind of name. So fax and data card, you could actually plug in a little data port type thing up here. They got a nice little connector there, the 2 contacts for charging, and it says so you can make fax and data calls with these options. Personal, not too sure what that is. Show own number, I ain't gonna show you that because this is my phone. Send your number, so this would be your caller ID. Default, you got what? Default or never. Default is yes, obviously. Welcome note is just something you want displayed on the phone's screen when you power the phone on. Countdown timer, it's kind of self-explanatory really. And that was it basically. What else do you got? Number editor. That was, I guess, to edit numbers in the phone. Memory functions. So a lot of y'all don't know, but back in those days, some phones actually couldn't even store numbers. SIM cards were used to store numbers, names and numbers, and you could only have a 10-digit name or a 12-digit name and a 15-digit number, and that was it. And you could only store like 90 or 100 of them on the SIM. And then they introduced, obviously, phones that could store numbers as well, but still, you were limited to just a name and a number. You couldn't have like a name, postal address, email address, all the other things you might have, fax number, and then 3 or 4 different numbers, office, home, cell numbers. So you had basically to store it. So what this allowed you to do is select which memory you were actually storing the name in. So you had obviously SIM card or phone. If your SIM was full, you'd store it in the phone, and this thing would let you know if your memory was full, you'd switch over to that. And that's what this was. Memory status, that would be your empty location, so 199. zero full, and this would be, that would be in a SIM card. If we change that to phone, let's see how many the phone will let us store. 125 empty, 0 full. So the phone has 125 capacity, and it looks like the SIM has 199. They could have made it 200 for God's sake, but I think I know why it's 199, because they used one storage location to store your own number on the SIM. That's probably why. But anyway, so copy between memories, that was basically to copy numbers back and forth between your SIM card and your memory. Real neat feature this. I use this a lot because I changed SIM cards and phones quite regularly back in the day. And when you had your numbers on a phone like this, you got a new SIM card and you'd copy from the phone to the SIM and back. So this allowed you to do from card to phone and from phone to card. And you could do individual or the whole lot. So if we go, I can't show you that, but I remember doing this. Real neat, actually. Real neat feature that Nokia had. And again, you could erase one by one or the whole lot, a whole bunch. And that was, I think, everything. In-call options. What is that? That's just your conferencing. And these phones did support phone conferencing. I remember having one of these, and it did. So you got join, send DTMF, mute, drop call, and that was it. And we're back to square one, recent calls. So that's pretty much your menu for one of these. I want to try and do a test call on here. I need another cell phone now, so that might help. Let me quickly grab one. Okay, so I've got a good old MR601 here, and that says roaming, obviously. And that says roaming for the same reason that this says roaming, with the little triangle up here. I don't know if I showed you that earlier, but that little triangle there means that the phone's roaming. It ain't roaming because we're in the UK, but the SIM card is obviously Orange, and it's still programmed up to think Orange is its home network, and 1-to-1 is not its home network, even though 1-to-1 and Orange have obviously merged. But anyway, the same reason that says roaming on there. Again, actually, the triangle there is shown. So actually, you see the similarities. Back in those days, the triangle meant that the phone was out of the home network. Good point to note that. So let me quickly do a network search on here just to see what this actually brings up. Select band, that would be GSM 1800. Available networks. Let's see what this guy brings. It'd be interesting to see what the network search on this does. We've seen this pick up 3 different providers. I would expect this Motorola to do exactly the same, but I would expect it to display O2 and Vodafone, or Cellnet and Vodafone, as well as 1-to-1. So it'd be interesting, real interesting to, there we go. So 23430, there we go. That's what I said earlier. That was 1-to-1. You got 234-15. I said it was 230, didn't I? I meant 234. So that was UK Vodafone-15, and 10 would be, it ain't picked up. Oh yeah, it has. 10-10 would be UK Cellnet. Again, this thinks obviously it's still Cellnet. It ain't, it's O2, but it's the same network. So real interesting, real neat. No more Orange though. And I remember doing a network search on one of these a few months back, and they definitely did still have Orange. So they obviously rationalized their network and only left one load of cell towers up. Anyway, so I've put the number in for this phone into here. I'm going to have to blur the number out because I can't have anybody calling me on my personal. This is a phone I use on a daily basis. Obviously, I don't want people ringing me, so I'm going to have to blur that out. In fact, how am I going to do this? Yeah, I might have to blur that out. I might have to blur it out. But this is it. Calling. Hopefully, this guy will ring. There we go. So, actually, why don't I just answer that? There we go. So now we're connected, and you can clearly see the call is there. So we can end the call, like so, and that's the call, basically. So this phone definitely does work. One of many that I have like this. I must have probably about 20, not the very same model, but permutations of this There's the German C1, which is actually very similar to this, but actually that operates on a 450 megahertz, and the antenna on that phone is really long. This has got a tiny antenna. The 2110 has an antenna about twice the length of that. I will do a video about that as well. These are still good to use. You can still use these. The problem with these is, though, getting old SIM cards, and also these are all locked to Orange unless you've had it unlocked, and unlocking these is a little tricky. I'll have to do a video about one of these, how to unlock them at some later stage. You actually need a bit of computer hardware to do it. It ain't straightforward like the Motorola's, but it can be done. So the problem with these is getting good batteries that still work. I actually have the extended one, which I used myself back in the day. That battery is now 20 years old, so even that ain't holding charge. But these are nice phones if you're into collecting. And incidentally, the Nokia 9000 menu is actually the same. It's based on this, which is the menu and memory buttons. And these were real straightforward to use, real neat, real intuitive as well. So a couple of volume buttons on the side for your earpiece volume, and that was that really. If you got any questions about this or any other phone that I've covered, drop me a comment, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.